Action.
My name is Chip Coffey. I'm a psychic, medium, paranormal investigator, and now author. My book is coming out in 2 weeks. It's called Growing Up Psychic, and I've been someone who's had involvement with the Ouija board for many, many years. My first, you're going to edit this, right?
Of course, yeah. Do whatever you want, please. Totally casual.
My first experience with the Ouija board actually was when I lived in a haunted house in upstate New York when I was a boy, between the ages of 10 and 14. The house that we lived in was incredibly active, and my parents and I wanted to try to communicate with the entities who were making their presence known in the house, so we bought a Ouija board at a local discount store, kind of like an early version of Walmart. And we brought it home and we began using it and got some fairly amazing results with it. The Ouija board actually told us information about the Murphy family, the family that lived in the house prior to our inhabiting the house. Told us information about them that we were able to validate through historical records after the fact of being told by the Ouija board. Also told us a very interesting thing about one of the missing sons of the Murphy family, who played a very integral part of their history and their story. And it impacted my family because he was a missing heir on their house when we tried to sell our house. It told us that he had disappeared when he was a teenager, which we verified. It told us that he had been killed mysteriously and was buried by his family in the backyard of our house. It said that a tree, a rather large maple tree in our backyard, had been planted by the family to mark his grave. It also told us that that year on July 13th, if we went out into the backyard between 9 and 10 o'clock, that we would see visual evidence of the fact that John was buried in the backyard. We didn't know what that meant, but we sort of waited until that July 13th date. Around 9:30 when it started, it told us it needed to be dark. Around 9:30 we went out into the backyard and it was dark, and that night there was a fairly significant moon, if I remember correctly. And at the base of the tree, you could see, as though it were illuminated from underground, the perfect outline of a body coming from underground. The head was kind of at the trunk of the tree, and the body sort of flanked out from the base of the tree. And we thought perhaps it was some trick of the light or the moon's reflection doing weird things, and discovered trying to walk around to cast a shadow on this image that was appearing to us, and we were unable to do so. It was just as though it were somehow glowing, if you will, from underground.
And you thought it was something supernatural at that point because you had understood you had a gift by then?
How else could we explain it other than the fact that it was possibly something supernatural? Where was that information, that hidden occult information, coming from? I mean, no one in the room knew any of that information. So, other than some unexplainable source, how was that board spelling out these very detailed messages to us?
And was that one of your most significant paranormal experiences as a youngster, or did you have many that led to this?
Many experiences. That was just one of the many that I had as I was growing up.
Okay. So for me, the Ouija board is a symbol, in a way, a symbol of the attempt for this dimension or world to make contact with another one.
Right.
My partner, the expert, and I say this with total respect, believes that there is no other side. Yeah. I believe there is. I had experiences that, to me, prove it through the Ouija board. As a famous psychic and medium, what's your opinion of that other world, if it exists? And is the Ouija board truly a conduit to that world, in your opinion?
I believe that we don't know what we don't know. Is there life after death? I firmly believe that there is, or some form of existence after death. We call it life after death, the afterlife. There's something beyond the corporeal body's shedding of the soul. That's what I believe. I'm not asking anybody to believe what I believe or convince or convert anyone to my ways of thinking. That's just what I believe. I believe that we as human beings, death has always been the greatest mystery. So we try to communicate with those non-corporeal beings who are in another realm, dimension, the afterlife, heaven, whatever you care to call it, to establish that communication in order to discover some information about what that realm consists of, or at the very least to try to confirm that it does indeed exist. Is the Ouija board one of the ways that we might be able to facilitate that level of communication as a method of divination or communication? Absolutely. I think that look at what it is. It spells out letters of the alphabet that can form words and thus form sentences and thus convey information. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory insofar as how it works. If at its optimal source, I think that it really can facilitate communication between the realm of the living and the dimension of the dead.
Then why is the stigma attached? Because I agree, it seems like it's marketed as a toy, but in fact it's a tool, and yet it's been stigmatized or demonized as the source of hauntings, the source of spiritual trauma. If you play with a Ouija board or something, when in fact it could be the tool to solve a haunting, perhaps.
Right.
Right. But there's a paradox there. There's a dissonance, isn't there? It seems.
Look, we all know that the paranormal is something that you can't understand, explain, or we all know that the paranormal is something that you can't understand or explain, and therefore you can't deny something's going on when something happens. It is what it is. The Ouija board, I mean, it used to be a parlor game. It used to be something kind of like Monopoly or cards or chess or Chinese checkers. And somewhere along the line, maybe with the advent of movies like The Exorcist or Witchboard, it got a bad reputation of being something that was evil or demonic or was going to bring in something that was negative. And let's face it, the things that are most sensational are going to get the most press. You don't hear about the times that the Ouija board is bringing in good stuff. You hear about the times that the Ouija board brings in evil or nasty entities, because people like that sort of scary horror movie genre type stuff. Mm-hmm. Our Ouija board experiences were anything but terrifying. They were informative and pleasant and, didn't turn at all negative. I would venture to say that it may have something to do with the intent that you use the Ouija board too, the personalities of the people that are involved, the collective energy that's present when you're using the Ouija board. I don't know, we went into it with pure intent. And if you go into it expecting negative results or taunting something, you might get a pissed off spirit that's going to come through, or even a demonic entity that you open that door to if your attitude's in the wrong place, or how your energy is melding with the energy that you're trying to pull through. I don't know precisely how all that works, but I just know that I'm not afraid of a Ouija board. I think that people need to be responsible with it, just like you need to be responsible with any sort of investigation that you do within the paranormal realm.
Is it fair to say that you're not scared of them and you don't need Ouija boards because you as a medium psychic are a carbon-based Ouija board? So in that sense, if that's fair to say, and the Ouija board maybe allows us lesser gifted people to access that latent ability, you don't operate on faith at the end of the day. You have seen, heard, whatever through your senses, your sixth and seventh and eighth senses. You really know there's something out there, don't you? Whether the Ouija board touches it or not, right. Know there's another side, or do you not?
I've had experiences that are pretty undeniable. Could I write in blood that there's an afterlife? No, I guess I really couldn't. But again, it becomes my own personal experiences combined with my own belief system have given me a pretty, my own belief system combined with the things I've experienced and the evidence that I've collected has given me a pretty firm foundation to base my belief system on the fact that there's something more out there that, again, we don't understand, can't explain, does exist, and it's just beyond our scope of understanding. It's there, but how do we define it? How do we pigeonhole it? And we as human beings try to do that.
Well, again, it's like you as a psychic, you have, I'm sure, in your life, I've seen it on TV, where you will nail something, whether the nature of the haunting that you walk into a house cold on,
Right.
or I'm sure if you do a reading, you could nail. I haven't seen your readings, but I know you're very well respected. So if that's the truth and all that is conceptually possible, then therefore, when the Ouija board did the things that it did for your childhood, it said go here at this point and this thing happened.
Yeah.
Is it possible that the Ouija board, again, is this cardboard or whatever manifestation of a gift that's only few individuals ever manage or exploit or like you say, actualize to your level? Do you believe that's a fair comparison? Because I guess my argument is I believe it is about your intent. As you say, I believe there is another world, and if you think there is another world, well, you'll never reach that other world. But you, every day, I'm sure, hear and see evidences of that other world. Or am I overstating what it's like to be a psychic and a medium? I guess my question to you is, as a psychic medium, it's like you're playing the Ouija board every day without even wanting to. Is that fair to say? Because you see shards of evidence, shadows of evidence of this other world. Is that fair or no? Is that not what it's like?
I would have to say that when I'm trying to communicate with a higher dimension or a different dimension, that I'm tuning in and tapping into